What's up, people? Or here from Patch Dudes, the most patchy channel on the YouTube. Today we're going to show you two different ways how we patch small fist size hole in drywalls. Now I know what you're thinking, or there is no holes in this drywall. Well, I got a solution for that. One more. Well, there we go. We have two holes. Now we're going to show you two methods. The first method is using these stick-on patches. They're awesome. The second one will be a traditional installation of a drywall piece. Cut it out, install a new one, tape it up. Stay tuned. So now that we've got our two holes, I'm going to show you the tools we're going to be using today. For the first method, we're going to need a piece of 1/2 inch drywall. I only had this piece of scrap, which is the moisture resistant green one. You can use whatever sheetrock that you want. Second, mud. For the first two coats, we're going to be using hot mud. This is Easy Sand 20. It sets in 20 minutes and it's sandable but not very. I wouldn't use it for a final coat. For a final coat, we're going to be using just normal all-purpose mud, joint compound. You can buy this at Sherwin-Williams, Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever you get your supplies. That's material. We're also going to be using some mesh. You can use fiber fuse, you can use regular mesh. I like mesh for patches like this, it works good. Some drywall screws, these are really good. A drill. My favorite tool, which we'll get to in a second, this is the Makita drywall cutout. You can adjust the blade as you need, 1/2 inch, 3/4, 5/8. Whatever drywall size you have, you can cut it out pretty easily without ruining your insulation. We're also going to be using these amazing backing clips. These guys eliminate having to find a stud, and it's awesome. We'll show you how to use that. Our good old 8-inch and 6-inch taping knives and a mud pen. So yeah, these are all the tools that you need, other than some sanding machines, which we'll get into later on. But let's get going with method number 1. Okay, so on this one, what we're going to do, we're going to use the traditional cutout and install a new piece. So what I'm going to do is take my drywall piece and my level and my little utility knife. What I'm going to do is cut out a piece a bit bigger than what it is currently on the wall, the damage. So just pour your drywall like this, give it a flip it. Now you want to take your knife inside here and cut it. Now it's kind of hard to do with one hand. Now I'm just going to size it up, give it a quick mark, take my level, because we want to keep this pretty. Clean it up. And now we have a nicely cut piece of drywall. I'm going to shave it up a little bit. So now, all we're going to do is trace this one on the hole. We don't want to make it too big or too small. Just want to trace it, so then we don't have to start playing around with, is it going to fit, is it not going to fit. Now, two different ways you can cut this out. You can take your old school jab saw and start jabbing in and whatnot, or you can use my absolute favorite tool. Now this has been through a lot, so excuse the dustiness, but this is a drywall cutting tool made by Makita. It has a little compartment that catches dust, or you can attach it to a vacuum. I don't have a shop vac here, so I'm not going to do that, but it does a pretty great job of cutting out drywall and not making a mess. So I'll show you how to use it. If you want to zoom in here, what we're doing is you put the blade where you want to start, angle it up, put some pressure, And excuse the noise. Okay. Now, as it's very obvious to see, I have a screw that's holding this guy together, right on the metal stud. So I'm going to take a little drill with a Phillips. I take a screw out, toss it out, and just take that piece off. As you see, came off very, very nicely. We're just going to take our knife and clean this up. Okay, now we're going to test it out with the piece that we cut out, we traced on it. If we did this right, it should fit perfectly. Beautiful. Now, we are going to take some drywall screws. Nice and easy. Take about 3-4 drywall screws. The number one thing I'm going to do is mark my stud and strengthen my existing drywall. I love using this bit. It's a Phillips with a little dimple. What it does, it makes sure that your screw doesn't go behind the paper and ruin everything. So you can go very in, and now my screw is nicely underneath the paper and it's very easy to coat it. So I'm gonna go right here and right here, and it's nice and secured. Now we have the stud in there. What we're gonna do is put 2 clips in here. Okay, so now we have our existing drywall secured to the existing stud. When we put our piece, we're gonna have to attach it to something. So in the past, you would have to cut a way bigger hole and get to the next stud. These guys changed the game. So these are pressed on clips by pressed on. What you do is you put this piece into the existing drywall, like so. And then another piece right over here. You take your drywall screws and then you put a screw into here. Of course, I'm doing this with my left hand, so it doesn't work too well. Go the other side, my lovely assistant. And we will put it back in there. So you just screw it in like so. Now we take our existing piece that we cut earlier, put it into place like so. Take 4 screws, 1 into the existing stud above, now 1 here, and 1 here. Now what you're going to do is take these guys, wiggle it back and forth. And now we're simply going to check if any of our screws popped, like this one. Drive it back in. And if you really want to be holier than thou, take your utility knife and just clean this up a little bit. Just clean it up. Make sure it's nice and ready for mesh tape. Now we're going to take our regular good old mesh tape with our 6-inch knife. You can use whatever knife you want. We're going to place the mesh about so onto the wall, strengthen it. Now all you do, you put your knife like this and pull to the side. Next piece. Now put it under. There's no need to overlap. You're just going to create a bigger hump than needed. It's not the end of the world if you do overlap, but there's just no need for it. Do yourself a favor, take off any loose guys. And make sure everything is nice and strong. So now what we have, we've had a hole, cut out a piece, we put a new piece using the existing stud and our pressed on clips, and now we apply the mesh tape. Next step is to mix up some hot mud and put the first coat on. We'll show you in a second. Okay, now method number 2, how to fix any hole really less than 5 by 5 inches, is to use my favorite thing from Adford. It's a fiber tape. What it is, it's a mesh tape over a metal tape, mesh, whatever you call it. And all you do is clean up the hole, any loose bits, take them off. Take off the backing and simply stick it on. I want to make sure it's on really good, and take off any excess. And now what we're going to do is very simple. We're going to mix up some hot mud. This stuff and the regular mesh, they both need hot mud, so either sheetrock 5 or 20, 45 or 90. We're going to use 20 so we can coat both of them at the same time. Give it some time to dry. We'll do one more coat of 20 after this one, and then a final coat with all-purpose mud just to sand it. If you have a different way or better products, let us know. That's the way that we figured how we do it best. Typically we can do these in one day, but yeah, stay tuned. Okay, so we're gonna mix up some hot mud. We're gonna use Easy Sand 20. I already have it in this handy box, but this stuff is awesome. Dries up in about 20 minutes. Faster if you have a heat gun or a fan. So 2 things you're gonna need is a mud pen, 6-inch drywall knife. You can use 4 or 8, whatever you're comfortable with. I like this one. Take a heaping spatula full of compound. Now put it into our pan. Take normal water, take a sip for hydration, and start adding a little bit of water. You want to add a little at a time and mix it to see if you need to add more water. Now, in my long career, I've never mixed the right amount of mud. It's always way too much mud for not enough water, or way too much water for not enough mud. So obviously I didn't put enough water, and to be honest with you guys, I probably made too much for these 2 holes. So let's mix it up. You want to just work the water around. You want to get to about a yogurt consistency, like a Greek yogurt. And that's good enough. Now don't worry too much about any chunks or whatnot. As you start working the mud, it will get rid of it. But that's about the consistency that I like to work on my first coat. Okay, so this is how you want, at least how I like to hold and load up my spatula, my mud. Go from here, scoop it up, and then give it a little wipe on each side. You can see the mud is in the middle, so it's not going to go all over the place. And all I'm going to do is put it on and work it into my groove first. Now I'm going to load it up again, work it into my grooves, and then wipe everything off. So the mud is into the grooves. And since this is a pretty small hole, we're gonna just give it a quick coat. This is cheating. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, you don't have to do it on the first try. But I'm going to just load it up. You want to put a good amount of mud on. And now, this is the most important and where people go wrong. You have to feather your edges. What I mean by that is put pressure on the outside of the knife. So you want your knife to bend like this. So you're only taking off what's on the side here. Clean your knife. Feather. 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 Now, I'm going to put the knife as perpendicular to the wall as I can. So I'm leaving a good amount of mud on the surface. And that's good enough for the first coat. Now let's go over to our method number 2, where we have this hole and a wire mesh. What I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to load it up really good. But first, concentrate in working the mud into the hole. That's going to determine the strength of the patch. And now I'm just going to coat the patch. Again, load it, clean it, and put it on. Once again, feather my edges by putting the pressure on the outside of my knife. All 4 edges. With the knife as perpendicular to the wall as possible. Just wipe off any excess. This is good enough for first coat. We're going to let this dry for about 20 minutes. Maybe put a little fan on it to speed it up. And then we're going to come back and do a second coat. See you soon. Okay, now that it's been about 15-20 minutes, we had the fan going for a little bit. This is nice and dry and set and ready for coat number 2. Again, first coat will sheetrock 20. This is another coat of sheetrock 20, and we'll finish it with all-purpose. Now you can see the inside where we use the stick-on mesh. It's still a little bit wet, but it's set enough for us to work with. So first thing I'm going to do is take my 6-inch knife and just quickly go over the surface to knock off any loose bits, excuse my accent, that might have been on the surface. And now we are ready to mix up our mud. I already have a little bit of mud in my pan. Take my water, put a little bit of water in here. Should be enough. Most likely I put in a bit too much. And we're just going to start working the mud around. We're going to take our 8-inch knife, load it up like so, and if you notice, I'm just going a little bit over the area that already went on the first coat. And one more. Now, again, I'm going to put the pressure on the outside of my knife, feather the edge, and wipe off the excess. The tighter you leave it, the better. Less sanding to do. So this is that one. Now we'll coat this one. Let's see if for once in my life I've mixed up enough mud. As you can see, I'm only coating it a bit bigger than I did on the first coat. Again, now I'm going to feather my edges. Wipe off the excess. It's kind of hard to see when I'm doing it fast, but I'm keeping, the more you have the knife closer to 90 degrees, the more you're going to take off. So if you keep the knife perpendicular to the wall, you're going to leave a lot of mud on. And you're just going to smooth it over. I have a little bit of mud left. I'm going to throw that out. And now I'm gonna clean up my tools, because you always have to keep your tools clean. I'm gonna let that dry for another 15-20 minutes until it sets. We'll probably put the fan on it, and then we're gonna put one more nice and tight coat of all-purpose, and we'll be ready for sanding. So I'll see you in a bit. Okay, now our mud is nice and dry and set, ready for last coat. Last coat we're going to use is dust control, lightweight, all-purpose. You can use whatever ready mix, all-purpose you have available. Just don't use dry decks. That stuff is crap. So all we're going to do, take it out of the can. This one has been sitting for a bit. Scoop it out a little bit more. And now, very important, you really want to work it in. I have just a tiny bit of water inside my pan, because the water will thin it out and make it easier to work with. Okay, it's nice and good consistency. See about so it's not like falling off my knife. Some people would like it thinner. I like it like this. I'm just gonna again quickly go over my repair, knock over any loose bits I might have here. If you want, you can also sand at this point. And once again, I'm going to load up my knife and then go a little bit wider on the last one. I'm going to speed it up. As you can see, there's a bunch of hitchhikers in my mud. It's okay, we're going to work them out. And she's good to go. Tomorrow we're gonna come back here, because it's too late today. We're gonna come back here, give it a sand and paint it. So we'll show you what the last coat looks like, sanded and painted, and you'll never be able to see that I had anger issues on the wall. See you tomorrow. Okay, it's the following day. Both of my patches are really nice and dry, ready to be sanded. So now I'm gonna introduce you to one of my favorite machines. This is our trusty Mirka dustless sanding system. It's an HEPA vacuum connected to this little 6-inch hand sander with a super fine surf prep sanding pad. We use this to sand small repairs like this without any dust or anything. It's really cool system, really expensive too, but you can use any sanding block that you want. Make sure you use the extra fine one, 180 grit and above. So all I'm gonna do is turn it on, give it a quick sand, and yeah, let's get it sanded, ready for paint. That's all she wrote for the sanding. If you really zoom in on it, it's really nice and flat. No dust anywhere. Ready for paint. There might be small imperfections once we paint it, but once we paint it, we'll do a few touch-ups and it should be good to go. But this machine is awesome. Highly, highly recommend. Stay tuned, we'll get it painted. Okay, now that we got beautifully patched and sanded repairs, they're ready to get painted. I'm not going to bore you too much about details about paint. The best type of paint to use for repairs is either flat or matte. It shows less imperfections, and I always recommend painting the entire wall. On this specific case, we have an exact match of the color and high quality paint, so we're only going to do spot. painting just for the sake of time, but if you're ever doing repairs for clients, paint the whole wall. So all we're going to do is take whatever roller you have handy. I just happen to have a little 4-inch roller. So all I'm going to do, go into like a W and go up, down a bit further than the repair itself. That is in essence how you paint and how we repair a patch. 2 methods we've shown you that you can use on your own home or clients' houses. They both come out seamless, and they look awesome. So let us know if you liked it. Like the video, share it with your friends, and click the subscribe button. A lot more awesome content coming to you. Thank you for watching.